All right, let's call to order the Finance Committee meeting for Thursday, December 16th.
With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 14th, 2021 meeting.
You comfortable seconding, or do you like me to second because you weren't here?
You should second.
Okay, I will second. All those in favor? Aye. One abstention, I assume?
Abstain, yep.
One abstention, okay.
And I'd like to make a motion to amend our agenda to add an item which will be labeled as 2A. We'll call it discussion possible action IT data backup solution. And then number 2 on the agenda, would change it to 2B.
Okay. We have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Move on to item 2A. John, are you coming to present?
Hi, good evening. As it stands right now, the town of Rocky Hill does have a viable backup solution. However, it's expensive. It costs us annually $26,000 a year. Right now, we're looking at going to a previous vendor that we had, Unitrends. They are a completely capable backup solution. They offer DR services. They offer cloud backup solutions that are replicated to from an on-site appliance. The thing is, we'd like to enter into an agreement with them for 3 years. So that way they kind of offer it as a subscription. We get preferred financial advantages that way. Annual payments would be $13,000 a year.
So basically a $13,000 a year cost savings.
Yes.
Okay. That's a positive. Questions for John?
I mean, is this apples to apples in terms of the services that would be provided under this contract? When we're comparing the dollars, we're really talking about comparable nature and quality of services?
Absolutely. Feel completely comfortable making this recommendation with no loss of service or backup capabilities.
Okay. I'm not going to push my luck. That sounds
You're
pretty
the
good.
IT guy, so I'll say that's a good thing.
Just quick, how has the changeover from one to the other? Is there any cost in that? How difficult is that to accomplish?
So the cost is already built into the quote. There are startup services and things like that that are already included in that.
Oh.
They have white glove service, and as far as seeding the cloud replication goes, they will actually send us a device that will put our initial cloud backup on there. That'll get seeded from our first backup, so that way we don't have to dump 9 terabytes worth of data across the internet.
Make a motion then?
I'll entertain a motion, absolutely.
With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution, data authorization, data backup system solution, and enter into a contract with Unitrends of Burlington, Mass. For a total of $36,130 over a 3-year period.
Well, I'll second it, but I'll ask a question. We're not really authorizing the contract, right? We're authorizing forwarding it to the town council for council
Or is that
approval?
a consent agenda?
We do the consent agenda.
Okay, so the motion,
What it is the resolution states the total cost, and how we're paying for it is authorization to finance it because it's going over 3 years.
no, I'm just confirming the nature of the motion that's been presented. I thought it may have been framed as that we're approving the contract. I don't think that's what's before us right now. We're approving, putting it on the
No,
full
I think
council's
you're
agenda?
approving everything, sending it to the town council. If you put it on a consent agenda, it means that the finance committee reviewed it and is approving it, and then it's going to the town council for their official approval. But
Okay.
when you put it on the consent agenda, there's no discussion.
Understood. So our approval is subject to the
So it's
approval of town
something- so
council?
everything's being approved.
Okay, so with that understanding, that's the nature of the motion. Got it.
And you have your second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Item 2B, update on defined pension benefit.
Okay, yes, just wanted to bring in an update. The last update we did was on June 30th, and without our meeting last month. We missed our quarterly, so we thought we'd just give you the 5-month update to let you know where our plans are with our 4 plans. And at this point, we'd say they're in good standing. We can see there's slight decrease comparison to July 1st. We ended June 30th in a very good percentage increase. So the 1.8 to 3% in the various plans is actually a good standing for this point in time. We'll continue to monitor that. So we wanted to keep you in the loop. We'll continue to do these quarterly as we move forward.
Okay. Questions for Mona?
So just to get an idea of the makeup, so how have the earnings been on these since then versus what we were planning for? Do we know, do we have it broken down that way? Or?
Well, I'd say comparison to where it was June 30th, the fact that we're continuing, in a fair mode for the market is a good pace.
There's really no earnings in it. It's all driven by basically
Market.
market prices.
Well, that's what I mean, yeah, market
Yes.
appreciation,
So-
yeah.
So what I think the reflection is the plans follow the markets. So when things are going up, the plan goes up. And the prices go down, the plan goes down.
Right, but we have deposits into it, we have withdrawals from it, and we have market appreciation or market going down, so there's kind of a few
That's other components that's not reflected here.
Okay, so this
just
is
the
strictly-
assets. This is just
Okay,
strictly
so
the assets.
Right.
What you're talking about is the monthly pension payouts. Employees do contribute to the police and fire plans, police and general employee plan, 3% of their salary. And then as well as the town does make payments every year, but we haven't made any yet.
Not at this point, no.
So that's not truly reflected in it. That's more when you do the year end, you sort of have the whole
Okay.
sort of balance sheet or income type statement for it.
Okay, thanks.
Nothing, Bill? Okay, thank you, Mona. Move forward to discussion, possible action, shared mower with Town of Newington.
As Alan knows, we have a very old, highway department has an old boom mower that's used to mow the grass and some of the side of the roads, as well as some hill slopes and so on. And I've been meeting with the town managers of the neighboring towns for lunch once a month, and I asked if anyone's interested in getting a mower, and actually we had 2 towns that were interested, Weathersfield and Newington. And I think we had a Zoom meeting back in the beginning of November with it, and Newington sort of ran with it to get the numbers together. They're really interested in getting it, and they're even willing to house it and maintain it and so on, and share those costs with the towns. Weathersfield backed out because they wanted to reallocate some of their money to other capital needs that they have. So it's just down to Newington and Rocky Hill. And primarily, Newington really wants it for the winter months because they want to do a lot of the so-called mowing on I guess they have a lot of streams and waterways that they would like to do that. And then it seems like Rocky Hill would get it in the summertime, which when we need it the most. Plus, it also would be helpful, beside the roads, it also would be used up at Straska Farm to mow some of that grass down and so on. So as of, I think, December 7th, the prices went up 5%. So on your table is a revision of the letter that we got from Newington on their searching to get the price and so on. So it went up from 158,000 and change to 165. So what just looking to do is discuss whether the town should go in on this 50-50, so we get a brand new mower, very heavy duty equipment, and we split it and share the cost with operating costs with Newington. So the 165 relates to the verbiage up above, and it's all heavy duty equipment. If we made changes and reduced it down to lesser equipment, that's where the price would come down. So, as I said, Newington put this together, and they pretty much want heavy-duty, top-of-the-line type type equipment. So the proposal would be to fund this is looking at the non-reoccurring account, which we'll get to it later, or you can go to now where we're closing out some of the projects that have residual balances in there. And we did have some money set aside for vehicles in that fund. And so by closing out a number of accounts related to like the generator that was completed, we had some money left over from the steps at the high school, et cetera. We get it up to about 73,000. And maybe if we just tweak a little money out of the, like the sidewalk account, we can come up with our 50% contribution. We did offer, we are willing to offer it to Weathersfield if they want to come in a year later and then, you know, buy their share in there. But as of right now, it's just two towns, Newington and Rocky Hill, that would be looking to do this.
Questions for John?
Yeah, I do. John, this is a purchase rather than a lease?
Yep. It's purchased.
And what town or towns will have ownership of the equipment?
Well, I think ownership would most likely be Newington,
Okay.
and they'll house it, and they're willing to maintain it.
So are we,
And it would come to, say, Rocky Hill, and then we would house it in our highway department garage.
during the months that we use it?
It'd be more, I would say more, Newington would be more of the so-called owner of the equipment.
Okay, so are we anticipating some type of a legal document between the two towns governing, you know, obligation to maintain it, the sharing arrangement, that kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff?
No, I don't think I have any questions. Sounds like a good idea.
John, I guess my question's, the highway department, I'm assuming in Rocky Hill has accepted this is a suitable mower for our uses as well?
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll solve some of the problems we have summer-wise
Yeah.
with those streets that aren't getting cut, or town parcels that aren't getting cut.
Hopefully you have something that will last the full season,
Yeah.
as opposed to be put on the sidelines, waiting for parts to be found.
Right. And then the anticipated money that we would need to reallocate would be approximately, sounded like about 15,000, depending what options.
But, well, it would be 165, that's
No,
that's the option.
out of the non-recurring.
Yeah.
You took some money from, you said any difference may come out of sidewalks or another account.
Yeah,
What would that dollar amount look like, approximate?
Well, when we go to the, if you go to the non-reoccurring page,
I think we had a new handout for that.
number 7.
Yep.
If you look on the right-hand column, number 5, I sort of squared off the boxes that we use, and I got up to 73.
Okay.
And probably whatever the difference would be would probably come out of the sidewalk.
It's going to be about 82.5 roughly, I
Yeah,
think.
so you probably come up with, say,
Be like
about
9 grand.
10,000 out of the sidewalk.
I assume we're getting all the options at the bottom, we're not deducting any of those, is that?
If you want to go to a cheaper option or a less expensive option, then you would put down below, and then those were,
There were deductions
and then you
from,
would reduce it down, so whatever the boom is, the BB-18 boom, we went with that instead of the boom that's listed in the up top.
Right.
We could reduce the price by $5,000.
right, but I guess what I meant, the recommendation is to get it as put together for the 165.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, because as I said, Newington was primarily the driver of this.
Yep.
I think they were looking for whatever their needs were, and it's kind of unique that they're more interested in using it in the cold weather to cut down grass around waterways.
And if we're splitting the cost, it's not that much extra.
no, I just want to, so basically we're looking between $10,000 and $15,000 of other funds being
Yeah.
taken out of the non-reoccurring.
Yeah.
And you're comfortable that those funds are there and that we'll be able to utilize them, I
Yeah.
guess is,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
All right, so, need motion to? approve?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to, where's the wording? Here. Hold on. Here we go. It's made papers. I'd like to make a motion to approve, as shown in our packet, our share of the purchase of a new roadside boom mower, four-wheel drive tractor in conjunction with the town of Newington. Splitting the cost 50/50.
Yep. I'll move to amend that, subject to entry of a legal agreement with the town of Newington concerning obligations to maintain and store the equipment, and the right to share the usage of it.
Just so I can understand, we're gonna house it probably in the summer, and then they're gonna house it in the winter, basically, so they're not gonna house it 12 months a year, so.
Understood. I just want to make sure all that is spelled out in a binding document.
You have to accept
Oh, sorry, yeah, that's fine, except the amendment.
Okay.
Okay, so with that amendment, do we need a new motion or a second? I can't remember the procedure. I moved to amend rather than seconding it.
I don't, we don't have that many people.
Yeah, right?
Well,
Well, you recommended the amendment.
so
Jeff's
I
accepted it.
accepted the,
So now I
So assume
I
it's
second it as
Jeff's
so now you
amended.
can second the amendment.
Now you can second the
I second the
amendment.
motion as amended.
Yes, there we go.
I'm feeling like I'm in a courtroom here trying to figure these out. Okay, any discussion, any further discussion? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
License plate, moving forward, license plate, discussion and possible action, license plate reader lease.
Okay. So earlier today, we had our bid for the license plate reader, and we had two responses. We had one that came through as a lease. Our request went out for 16 locations as requested by the police department. Our request is going to Recor, who presented their RFQ with a lease for the 16 locations. It totaled to 48 cameras. Our other response that came in did not come through with a complete lease. They actually were recommending a purchase, which came in over what we were requesting and actually was not fulfilling what the request for quotes was asking. So our recommendation is to award the bid to Recor. They had three options: a 1 year at $115,000, a 2 year at $88,000, and a 5-year plan for $57,600. So obviously, with the large jump in adding in the years, our recommendation is to do a $57,600 per year, 5-year lease. The total $288,000. That would include all 16 locations, a total of 48 cameras. The funding is initially to be the ARP money, the American Rescue Plan Fund. And as we know, we're in tranche 1, which would probably cover 3 years of this rate. And then if we considered on tranche 2 to continue, then that would be our option.
Mona, just one clarification.
Sure.
On the document, you have $56,700, and you said $57,600.
$57,600.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
it's
that
right.
actually totals out, correct?
It's right in the first
Yes.
paragraph, the
Yep.
other one is transferred.
You're correct.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was looking at the bottom.
Yeah, got it.
57,600.
All right. Okay, I know that we would like to put this into, because the amount changed, should go to new business at the next council meeting on Monday night, not to a consent agenda item. I'm sure there's some discussions and questions to be had. And I believe Lieutenant Phelps will be
Yes,
at Monday's
we've
meeting.
asked him to attend on Monday.
Okay,
He's expecting to attend.
all right. So at this point, I guess we would entertain a motion to move this to the new business on Monday night's council meeting.
Can I just pose a question first?
Sure.
Mona, so this is a 5-year commitment, and anytime you're entering into a 5-year commitment to something that's high-tech, you run the risk of obsolescence, kind of being stuck with old technology towards the rear end of this. Is that a concern? Is there any obligation here or option for the equipment to be swapped out for an updated version if there's been some technological changes during the 5 years?
The request that was, the proposal that was presented does not say for upgrades. And as I said, there are options where if you went in for a shorter period, which would give you the opportunity to change, obviously there was a larger price difference. So, I mean, there are things to consider, but for it to be fitting into the budget and being able to address all the 16 locations, that was the recommendation that the police department was coming forward with. But you're right, there is that possibility,
That's the trade-off on the dollars.
correct?
Yeah, 'cause how much was the three-year lease per year? It was like 80-something?
Yeah, I think I have it, actually, I got it right here. 86,400.
So the 3 years almost the same cost as the 5.
That's still, still a pretty big difference.
It is a large difference. And 1 year was 115,200.
But at the end, we talked briefly about this, at the end of the lease, we won't own any of this equipment. So
Correct, it's
at the end of
strictly
5 years, at
lease.
least we get to start with
Right.
fresh.
Strictly lease.
But I definitely appreciate what you're, I mean, 3 years is a long term, even with technology
Now,
nowadays.
let alone 5, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so you would make a,
Motion to move it to new business, not to the consent agenda, so we could discuss it Monday night.
so I make a motion to move to new business for Monday night's town council meeting, this town council resolution regarding the award of bid of license plate reader as a lease.
Second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll get to some finance stuff. Update on the Municipal Corona Relief Fund.
Okay, yes. I have a summary page in your packet. I know you may have been receiving some emails about the final payments on our Corona Relief Fund. We had $180,000 that we had received earlier in the year. This is the portion that's from the state, not to be confused with the ARP, our $3 million. This was the smaller amount that we had straight through the state, the $180,000. We're required to report to the state that this would be fully expended by the end of the year. The categories needed to be reported to the state, and that's the summary that we have here. For the most part, as intended, this is more strictly COVID-related, so the categories are very strict. So we spent the majority being related to cleaning and disinfecting the buildings, sending out flyers, on enforcement of executive orders. That would be situations. More specifically, we focused on the police department. If someone had to go out on a COVID leave, if we have to pay admin or any overtime to cover shifts and so forth. We actually agreed earlier in the year to give $20,500 to the health department. We had over $30,000 in modifications within the departments, as well as including the hands-free smart bin at the library department fit into that realm, as well as any of the cleaning of the building. We did some major ductwork cleaning, and also the actual testing, COVID testing, that we do through Velocity for employees. So in total, we were able to expend the entire $180,000 and not return anything to the state.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yes.
Any questions for Mona? Mona, just one, you mentioned testing,
Yes.
and I thought testing was covered, the employers weren't paying for testing of anybody that tested positive, or is that different at the municipal level?
We do cover, if we send people out for testing, that if we go through Velocity, they'll bill us, and we do cover that bill.
Okay. I thought that was, maybe I'm wrong, I thought the federal government was covering that at this point. No, okay. Item 6, update general obligation refunding bonds.
Okay, yes, I had attached the schedule, or at this point it was the tentative schedule for the refunding bonds that's coming up. We actually have scheduled on Monday to set with our financial advisor and to do a review. Economic developer Ray Carpentino, John Mayer, myself prepared our official statement, so we've got our draft in order. We're looking for the rating call is actually scheduled now for January 5th. We're expecting it'll probably be a quick call because this is, we actually just had one recently in July. So they're expecting that S&P will do probably a half-hour phone call with us. Should be rather brief. We did get response from our financial advisor that there were 5 proposals. And we believe we're going to select the one from Memphis, Tennessee, who's trying to, as they say, get a footprint in Connecticut. They came out with a decent rate, one of the lowest rates, and we should be looking at for the 12-year time period that we're refunding for at least approximately, things aren't final, but over $1.4 million over that time period of savings. So that will be what we're working on in the next few weeks.
So we just got those results back last night,
Yes.
and we talked to the FAA, and there's a company that's moving into New England that's trying to establish more business, FH&N, is that it? And they were the ones that came in with the low bid. So as Mona says, I think over 12, 13 years, we'll save about $1.4 million in interest payments. We're going to meet with the FAA to go over our rating call on the 5th, but we're also looking at how we're going to allocate the savings. We were thinking of making some of the savings a little higher in the beginning of the bond, so that we keep our debt service low as possible over the next couple of years. Because this year we're having one bond coming off, last payment, and then we have another bond in 2 years or 3 years coming off. So when they come off, then that will reduce our debt service. So we'll get those final numbers hopefully next week, and present them all to the Finance Committee then. But again, it was surprising we had 5 companies bid on this, because we find refunding's a little different. You don't, you sort of give them the information of what's left in your debt, and then they do their thing to figure out how much they're willing to pay you for the right to collect that money, and then they have their schedules to make money and so on. So I think I was surprised, because when Mona told you guys at the last meeting we were going to say over $1 million, I said, oh, remember, it's on tape.
Yeah, you didn't believe it.
But she did better. That's a good thing. 1.4 is better than 1.
That's right.
So, excellent. Any questions?
Yeah, one question. So, John, the rates that are in the proposals, are those locked in for a period of time?
Yes.
Okay, like until you get to the point of the contract?
Yes, is what we pay on interest, and then the underwriter does his interest payments, and then he sells the paper to investors. So it's like 2 different markets, and the underwriter sort of drives it. So, but generally, they figure out what the interest rate is over the life of the bond, and that's what the town generally pays to borrow that money.
Okay. I just want to confirm that the numbers you're working with right now, if the Fed were to bump up rates, 3 or 4 weeks from now, that won't have any bearing. You have them locked in at what's already on the table?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we may have asked this before, I think the answer is no, but there's no bond premium involved in a refi?
No, it's usually built in to our savings. It's much better that way. When we get into bond premium.
All right.
That one.
That's good news to be able to get some savings. We'll move forward to item 7, reserve for capital and non-recurring expenditure funds through November 30th.
Okay.
Oh, no, I didn't skip one.
I put down a copy with some numbers to try to, like the old-fashioned AAA triptych to go through the small printed schedule. But If you look on the left side of the column, number one relates to the school's roof replacement program. Remember a budget or two ago, we allocated money for the Stevens School roof, and it came in under budget. Plus, we received money from the state, about 46% of the cost was reimbursed to the town. And I believe we received most of that money. I'm not sure whether we still have something pending. So at the beginning of the year, we had $192,000 in this line. And then the board has since started looking at the Griswold Middle School roof and canopy. And they had their architect that did the Stevens roof look at that. So you can see the cost for the roof for the architect's 19 and for the canopies 19. The roof is 48 and the canopy's 19. So we did have some expenditures associated with that over the last 2 months. Number two relates to that big HVAC project at West Hill School. No, it doesn't. No, number two is different. I'm sorry, number three. This relates to the problem with the sanitary pipe in the community center for the 2 bathrooms for the ladies and men's room in the old section of the community center that remained the same. The pipe was crushed, and we're having a rush job being done over the holidays, so it was $45,000. So we reserved 25 in the senior center building program reserve, and then 20,000 out of the repair and improvement to town buildings. And then number three relates to the West Hill HVAC contract project, in which initially, I think, let's just say the Board of Ed returned $676,000 to the town for phase one, and then they got $712,000 from the state through a ESA 2 fund. And so far, that project is pretty much completed. I think this is mainly some of the retainage and maybe some testing that needs to be done left there. Then number four, I don't think there's a number four. And then number five, we went over related to the mower. So that's sort of the summary of the action in the non-reoccurring account over the last 2 months. Mainly building related and the mower.
Questions for John?
Yeah, John, on that crushed pipe situation at the senior center, who has the ultimate responsibility for that?
The town.
Is that something that was caused by the town, you mean? It's not something that the builder is obligated to take care of?
No. No, where the pipe was crushed was sort of outside of the scope of the project.
Okay. So that was an old crush, so to speak?
Well, you're talking about an old cement pipe that's probably been in there since the 70s or 80s.
Okay.
Now, granted, when they were doing some vibrating could have caused something, but it's difficult to prove.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
And what we need to do is get that bathroom open so we can open up a couple more rooms because of our bathroom ratio to people. So, but
Okay, and nothing else?
Yep. Jeff, anything on that one?
Just a quick question. On the police equipment, body, and car cameras, was there an expenditure for $87,500? Or is that an old one? Or
we allocated money to buy the cameras about a year or year and a half ago, and then we got 50% reimbursement, which was the $87,000. So that balance was in at the end of June 30th. This year we spent on additional cameras primarily for the vehicles, as well as maybe a few more for the cars. So it's sort of part two. We spent the money on the bulk of the cameras for the patrol officers, and then we got reimbursed by an OPEB grant, OPM grant. And then this 87 is spending the state money to buy additional equipment. Okay. So in net cost to town say $160,000, but we got $240,000 of equipment.
We good on that item? Move forward then to item 8, state aid to municipalities.
Okay. The update on there, nothing for the month of November, but I believe we should probably step back and review what we did receive in October, which we didn't discuss. And we've received all of our pilot money in, so that we're all set on that grant. We also received our first payment on ECS for the month of October, and also the full amount of the stabilization. So state grant money is coming in as planned and on time. So we would next be looking at the Pequot money coming up for December, and hopefully our ECS money and town road aid in January.
All right. I don't think there'll be anything to really question there, so we can keep moving. Get into our monthly financial report.
Okay, so monthly financial, we'll start with the tax department, and you can see on their current year tax collections, we're at 57%, which is a little bit higher than we were last year. And if you look lower at the 3-year average benchmark, that we're actually ahead of that as well. So overall, we're doing quite well with the tax collector department, and we're even ahead in the prior year tax collections. So it's a very good place to be for November for tax, meeting our benchmarks. Can I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've discussed tax and state revenues where we are. Of course, I think we still see an issue continuing on with interest at 6%. Otherwise, highlighting our conveyance is slightly ahead. This is November, so we'd probably looking at just around 40% would be 5 months into the year. So our conveyance is looking very nice. Building permits slightly ahead. Also pointing out miscellaneous revenue, which shows at 67%. 2 particular items there. We received refund from the Bank of America for when we do our credit card processing. We get like the consortium fee reimbursement from them, so that was about $10,000. And we also get our KERMA equity payment at the beginning of the year for about $53,000. So I think those are the highlights in revenue, unless we had any questions. All right, so we'll move forward to expenditures. Again, looking overall, about 41% would be November. Anything that's standing out, it's for the most part, we look to be on track. If anything, of course, probate looks, slightly low. That's a timing of payments. Also, for sanitation at the 44%, we have a large MDC bill, which is paid at 50%, so that looks a little bit high, but that's more of a timing issue. Custodian, it's slightly low, but that's more of a vacancy they're experiencing on part-times. And I've pointed out for education at 25%. The information that I had at the time of this report was through the month of October. And ordinarily for education, it's more of a 2-month, September, October, because their July, August tend to be kind of inactive as far as expenditures. So those would be the highlights that I would point out. I'd say capital improvement, I'd probably just touch on that one. So we've got a couple of line items, the $450,000 from Board of Ed not expended yet, and some of the town road aid and sidewalk not expended at this point.
Any questions on our monthly financial reports?
It's a little bit delicate, but town manager, is that 50% through 5 months?
Yeah, I've been going to a lot of conferences, learning about ARP money.
We got to speed up the license plate readers, I think.
Just one quick question. Contingency reserves, is that a timing issue, or are we actually lower than we would have expected?
That's just really, at that point, it's one retirement payment that started, someone that's leaving like the end of June and did their first payment into the beginning of the year, July. So it's really a timing issue. So at that point, you're just seeing the beginning of the effect of, someone leaving at the end of the year and getting their final payouts into the beginning of this fiscal year. And that's really the only activity that's actually showing at that point, only thing we've had so far.
And we'll move forward to item 10, approval of the 2022 meeting dates.
You guys still want to meet at 6?
Definitely not any earlier.
We didn't try sneaking 5 o'clock through like we did last year.
Right.
And notice we bounced that right out, so that our full-time jobs get compromised. We appreciate you being here late with us, though.
Move to approve the proposed schedule for 2022 meeting dates for the Finance Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Do we have anything under other?
You just have a, put it on the table,
You did.
just a little FYI on the Board of Ed going out, doing an ad to get, I believe, a consultant or something to help them on their
Engineer for.
engineering consultant on their townwide HVAC, schools HVAC projects.
All right, well, thank you for that information. If there's nothing else on the agenda, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.